I'm Dr. Sindoor from the Department of English, and today I'll be talking about Wole Soyinka's poem, Telephone Conversation. As you all know, America has two groups. Actually, it is multicultural as a society, but the two predominant groups in America are the white Americans and the black Americans, right? And earlier they were called as Negroes, and that today is a taboo. You cannot use the word Negro. The Nigerian experience is something which dealt with a lot of racism, and the racist tendencies of the white Americans is what this telephone conversation talks about. Okay, this is the background to the poem. Now let's get into the poem. Telephone conversation. You know, conversation is something which is a dual thing. It happens between two or more people. Telephone conversation, usually if it's not a conference, it's two people. So here there are two speakers, okay, two people in conversation. One person is a landlady, a white landlady, who's renting out an apartment to a black American man. Okay, now let us look at how the conversation unveils itself. Look at the first sentence. The price seemed reasonable. Location indifferent, right? So the price of the apartment is reasonable. It's not expensive. It is something that he can afford. Location indifferent. Sometimes when the prices are what matter, the location doesn't matter, right? So we are looking for a house, and what matters is the amount that you're giving as rent. So here the rent is reasonable, and what is indifferent now is the location. So it doesn't matter how far, how near it is. What mattered is the rent, and that was a happy one. Okay, it was reasonable. The landlady swore she lived off premises. Look at that. So oftentimes people do not like the landowners or the owners of the apartment to be in the premises, within the proximity, because they are constantly, questioning them about the nails that are hit onto the walls and the noises and the water, etc., etc. Yeah, so here all the problems are solved. The price is reasonable, location indifferent, coming down to the premises, it is free of the landlady. So he'll be all by himself. So three things sorted. Nothing remained. Very important this line is. Nothing remained but self-confession. So there is a confession from the point of the speaker who's taking this apartment. Madam, I hate a wasted journey. I'm African. Look at that. So he says, Madam, I confess. Look at this. It's a confession. Madam, I warned. When do you warn somebody? When do you warn somebody? When it is a threat to them. Now, is being black American a threat to the white Americans? It is not. But there is this inherent concept of, racial discrimination that exists in America. So therefore, the term warned. So he says, Madam, I warned. I hate a wasted journey. This hating a wasted journey is, he wants to tell everything over the phone and clear off everything. Before even confessing this, if he reaches the landlady's place and then the landlady sees him as a black American, things may be very bad. It's a wasted journey, right? So that's why he says, Madam, I warned, I hate a wasted journey. I'm African. He confesses. The first confession is, I'm African. And what happens? There is silence. Okay? There is silence from the end of the landlady. Silenced transmission of pressured good breeding. When you are from a culture where you're not harsh to people, when you're taught to be very nice to people, what happens is that you cannot just you cannot weed out all your feelings immediately. So there is this pressured silence of good breeding. So she is from a cultured family. So immediately she doesn't hurl down the telephone. Neither does she say, oh my God, you're African, then I can't give you the I can't rent this apartment to you. So what she does is, she is just very silent. Voice when it came, look at this. Voice when it came, lipstick coated, long gold rolled cigarette holder piped. So he's not seeing the lady, he cannot see the lady, it is through the telephone. But by the way she's talking, he can imagine how she looked like. So there is this mouth which is lipstick coated, right? And it's as if she's holding a long gold rolled, expensive basically, right? Expensive gold rolled cigarette holder piped, right? All this he's imagining. Caught eye was foully. He was caught foully, meaning it was not a happy revelation. He, being an African, was caught, as if he's a thief. When do you use the word caught? You use it in the context of theft. Yeah, something that is sinful. I was caught in something, right? So here, he's caught foully. How? As an African. So again, there is this concept of racial discrimination. Look at the pressure of words, the vocabulary associated with African experience, right? Look at that now. Very, very harsh a sentence. How dark. When it comes to describing a person or a personality, we say how tall. Yeah? How tall are you? When we see somebody very tall, we say how tall are you? But here she's asking what? How dark. Can dark be explained in terms? Yeah. As you all know, a person who's associated with painting would give you different shades of dark. So is there a shade card to darkness? So she's saying, how dark? I had not misheard. So he's like, obviously he's thinking, how can somebody ask me such a question, right? But he's not misheard. Are you light or very dark? Look at the repetition. How dark is one? Are you light or very dark? Meaning, at least are you wheatish complexioned or are you really very, very dark? Button B, button A. Now this is a reference to, this was in 1960s. The poem was written then. So in those days there were these red color telephone booths where people had to get in, put a coin and then speak. B is cut the call, A is to continue the call. So here the speaker is insulted. So he doesn't know whether to cut the call, press button B, or to continue the call and press A. So between these two, stench of rancid breath of public hide and speak. Normally there is hide and seek. But this woman on the other side is hiding and speaking. So it is hide and speak. There is a pun on the term. What's a pun? When a direct word or a sentence is twisted to give a dual meaning, it becomes a pun. Okay? So this is public's hide and speak. Red booth, this is a reference to the telephone booth. Red pillar box, red double-tired omnibus squelching tar. Look at that. Everything is red. Now red here is a reference to, redness is like rouge. Something which is very, very regal. Something to do with the white American experience. But what is the omnibus doing? The omnibus here is a reference to the bus. That is squelching. Squelching is making a screeching sound. Okay. So squelching tar. Now tar is in what color? Black color. Okay. So wherever there is red, there is somewhere a bit of black. Okay. Which means these two are intertwined. This experience of white Americans and black Americans cannot be separated. But then this woman seems to be separating this experience. Okay. It was real. What was real? This discrimination. shamed by ill-mannered silence. Sometimes silence can be very ill-mannered. Yeah, we see that when a teacher poses a question and everybody is like quiet, it feels a little ill-mannered, right? So ill-mannered silence, surrender, pushed dumbfounded to big simplification. So sometimes you want to simplify things, you are silent. You don't want to argue. This is how it seemed. Look at that again. Considerate she was. She was good, kind and considerate, it looked. Varying the emphasis. Look at this. She's changed the sentence. Now he did not give, did she get an answer for how dark he was? No. So now she's changed the emphasis. Look at this. Are you dark or very light? Are you dark or very light? Is what she's asking. Are you dark or very light? Revelation came. You mean like plain or milk chocolate? Look at that. He's playing with the shades of light and black. Okay, so there is this question that came. Are you black like dark chocolate? Or are you light like milk chocolate? Is that what you mean? He's like playing around with the shades. Her accent was clinical, crushing in its light. Clinical accent. In clinics there is diagnosis. So it's as if she is examining him. Okay, how light, how dark. Impersonality. Impersonality. Impersonal is when you're not sensitive. You know, you're just being very curt about something, but not harsh. Rapidly wavelength adjusted, I chose. So he is beginning to answer now. West African sepia. West African sepia, all of you all must be using the camera. And you use those filters, right? In the what do you say, the apps. There is sepia, which is what? Little brownish, more inclined to darkness, a little darker brown color. So he says sepia. African sepia, which means more dark but then little bit of shade somewhere. Okay, now here as an afterthought, so he's going on repeating, he wants to show how dark, how bright he is. Okay, he's explaining his complexion. Down in my passport, silence for spectroscopic. Spectroscopic is like when there is lens adjusted to look at the universe. Yeah, so it's like that, it's clinical, it is spectroscopic. Down in my passport, flight of fantasy, till truthfulness clanged her accent hard on the mouthpiece. What's that? She's irritated. The answer she wants is, I'm very dark. She's not getting that answer. He's playing around. White chocolate and dark chocolate. Yeah, and then African sepia. So she's not getting the answer that she wants. So here she says, what's that? And it's all in capitals, which means she's shouting, conceding, don't know what that is, like brunette. So he says, you don't know what that is, like brunette. Brunette is blonde and brunette. Blonde is a woman who is fair complexioned and has golden color hair. Brunette is wheatish complexion, more prone towards darkness with black or very brown hair. Okay, so he says like brunette. Now obviously he's not a woman, but then he's just changing the gender a bit to tease her. Okay, so he says like brunette, that's dark, isn't it? Not altogether. Brunette is not dark complexion, brunette is brown with little tints of black. Okay, facially I'm brunette. Look at this now. This is the most important part of the description. They say that the most insulting thing that can happen to a human being is when he or she is asked to describe himself or herself physically. You can describe your intellect. You can say I'm this much, you know, I am educated, I work here and all that. But supposing you ask me how dark are you, how light are you, how tall are you, how fat are you? it becomes an insult. Now this is what is the crux of the poem. Look at what he describes himself as. Facially, I'm brunette. So look at that. He says, face-wise, I'm a brunette. My face is little brownish, with little tints of black and also light brown. But madam, you should see the rest of me. Palm of my hand, soles of my feet are a peroxide blonde. Look at that. Hands and palms are usually the fairest parts of the body, right? So he says, palm of my hand, soles of my feet are peroxide blonde. Friction caused foolishly, madam, by sitting down, has turned my bottom raven black. So there is a description of the bottom as well. Yeah? So it is a state of how insulted he is. He's just trying to throw that insult onto her. Foolishly, madam, by sitting down, has turned my bottom raven black. Raven is like a crow. It's not a crow exactly, but it's a huge bird which looks like the crow, which is very, very dark in its, the feathers and all are very black. More blacker than the crow's feathers. Okay? And in movie songs and all, they say raven black hair. The woman's hair is compared to, the blackness of it is compared to the raven black hair. So here, the bottom is raven black. One moment, madam, sensing her receiver rearing on the thunderclap. So she's about to, because she feels she's irritated, okay? So she wants to just slam the phone back. Madam, sensing her receiver rearing on the thunderclap about my ears. Madam, I pleaded, wouldn't you rather see for yourself? So look at this. Instead of asking these dirty questions, can't you just look at me? Because when you're seeing a person, it's very different from when you're talking to a person, right? So she says, she doesn't say anything. She's just hurling the telephone, hanging it. But then he says, madam, would you rather not look at me once instead of asking me these stupid questions? But then she's not listening. It's just slammed. So this is the ending of it, where the woman just slams the telephone, and the telephone conversation, is it a conversation? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves. So conversation is always between two people, but here it's like he is on the receiving end and she's just not listening to him, right? So that is the end of the poem. This is Telephone Conversation by Wole Soyinka. Yeah, that's about it.